Hi, I'm Paul from Interpol, and you're watching Undercover.
Welcome to Undercover. We are here with Paul from Interpol. Hello, man.
Hello.
How excited are you to be in Australia?
It's great. I love Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you actually don't have to say that. You actually do like Australia, don't you?
I do like Australia. Yeah.
I've been watching the Twitter account, and whoever has been pitching in there, I don't think it's always been you, has been.
It hasn't been me yet, actually. I haven't got the password. Those guys were supposed to be using our initials, really? You haven't seen any P's, have you?
No, I've seen D's. and
Yes,
S's.
exactly. All right, so everyone's doing what they're supposed to. Yeah, we're supposed to. Because sometimes we do, like on our website, if there's a message, whoever's written it, it's from Interpol. And then we decided that with Twitter, it should be more personal than that. So everyone should indicate that they're the ones writing. And I've yet to write because I don't know how to get on there yet. Someone told me, and then because I didn't do it immediately, I forgot.
Right, yeah. This is something you have to do now as a band, don't you? This engaging with your crowd, you kind of feel like you have to write tweets. Your tweets are fun, though. Well, your bandmates' tweets are
Good.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sam's really good for sound bites. And yeah, so is Daniel. Yeah. Yeah. And I think they enjoy it. But
Okay.
you mean you have to? I think you're right. I think it's one of those things that you don't have to do anything, but you're going to be missing out on something that's good for publicity, and
Yeah, and
it's a
of
good
course
idea to be on Twitter.
yeah, and you see those Twitters which are just like, buy our latest CD, or this is vote for us on this thing. They're terrible. Yours is actually engaging. I was watching it going, I know where you guys are.
Right.
good.
Cool. Good.
It's nice. Okay, but you have been on tour. Now I'm going to have to try and pronounce his surname, and I feel really bad because this guy's a legend. David Pajo?
Pajo, yeah.
Pajo is on tour with you, filling in for Carlos, well, on tour anyway. Is he you trying to convince him to join the band? Many other bands have tried and failed.
Well, I don't know. We're not really even looking that far ahead because
Oh.
it's sort of we have just this record to promote. The band traditionally doesn't write new music while we're on the road. Sort of wait for the campaign to wrap up and then go into the studio together. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So you're just enjoying your time on the road and forgetting about actually having to shore up a new bass player and everything.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I suppose everyone's been asking this, and everyone wants to know how Carlos's departure has kind of affected the interpersonal mood of the band. How's it been?
It's a funny thing. It's sort of I mean, being in a band is it's somewhere between a marriage with multiple partners and like a brotherhood or like a fraternity. So when it's like a fraternity, it's sort of like, there's not anything that someone can do that's so bad that it would break up the fact that you're brothers. You can come to blows and you're still brothers. With a marriage, there is a line sort of where it's like, okay, we got to split up. This is not working. So I think in that case, it was sort of, it was more like the marriage scenario, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah, the impression that I got was that it was very amicable, and you were kind of just going, Carlos, you want to go and do other things? We're right behind you. I didn't think that there was any
No, it is
infidelity or anything.
It is. It was as you perceived it to be, but more kind of like, I guess, the aftermath, the mood of it. It's not the same as like a brother dying. It's more like someone who said, I just can't really do this anymore, and so
Right.
you do miss them. It is a sad thing, and the dynamic, I guess, reflects that in some ways, but in other ways, it's sort of like, well, someone that didn't want to be there is no longer here, so there's a lack of energy wherein it's the energy of someone who doesn't want to be there. And so
Yeah.
you're back to on the energy of people that do want to be there.
Well, I got the impression that you actually enjoyed the tension a lot of the time, or the tension was fruitful artistically, and now the tension's kind of been allayed now.
I've just always been the kind of person where if I think someone's a genius, I'll put up with tons of crap from them because and not because I believe that they are better or that they deserve more. It's just that life is sort of boring, and if you're in the presence of someone that you think is really a genius, it's sort of like, well, whatever. I'd rather deal with them being, an a-hole than not, because I think that it's a more rare treat, more rare treasure, their ability. So, Carlos is that.
Yeah, you've been incredibly, I don't know, you've been complimentary of him, over the top complimentary. You really got a lot of love there.
Well, it's
Or
also
respect.
no, but it's also just that I don't ever feel like the media handled us as delicately as I would like or felt that we deserved, especially early on. So I would never really give them anything that's personal to me, because what we had given them, I felt like I didn't like how we were treated. So it's sort of, why would I ever confide anything that is really, close to my heart to the press, because they're, going to abuse trivial things I say, let alone important things. So it's just not for them to really know how I feel about the situation with Carlos. So I would just be more diplomatic to the press anyway.
Right. Okay. All right. Maybe I'll just go off on a different tangent then. Okay. This is the eternal question, which I have been hunting around and trying to find an answer for, and I think I'm legit that I can now answer it. Self-titled album that you've just put out. This is usually like a definitive album. Was this the way that you felt when you finished the album? Did you go, okay, this is where we are as a band, and so now we're going to nail it down? It's the Black Album.
I like the conceit of using that kind of notion of it being a definitive thing. When you do it self-titled, it's like this is us, this is it. And I like the kind of the conceit of that comes with that. Whether or not I actually believe it to be like the definitive album for us, in a way I do. In a way I do think it is one of our most complete, cohesive records that we've made. I'm really proud of this record. And it was also just that it was sort of the process of writing it. We were all shooting, Carlos especially was shooting really out there with what he was trying to do with his orchestrations, and Daniel also, I could sense, was really expanding on his writing. And it was just sort of heavy, and I felt that it was sort of appropriate to keep it really formal and minimal in terms of not having a title, and just sort of, like, let the songs speak for themselves. I don't need any glib, album titles are kind of glib, and they're sort of fun in that way. And only glib in the sense that there's no, I've had a really hard time explaining how I feel about this, and there's probably a really simple way to say it. But I like the finality and the formality of having it be self-titled, and I also thought that, like, Antics was sort of a way to kind of tweak the listener's mind before they go about listening to the songs on that record, or tweak their perception of what they thought our band was. I thought the title Antics would be sort of like, with this record, I didn't want there to be any or what are we getting into. It's just sort of like, oh, okay, it's austere, it's formal, it's minimal, and let the music do the talking.
Although, I mean, if you're talking about the idea of it being a definitive, artistic concept, maybe a summation of everything that's gone before, as very particular and as a particular sound as Interpol have, this is quite a move. I mean, it still sounds completely like Interpol, and that's something you're never going to be able to change. Your voice, the bass, it's just always going to sound that way. This is quite a step away, isn't it?
I agree. No, I agree. Yeah.
That wasn't a question. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I don't think it is. But that's the thing. I mean, just because it's a good representation of who we are now, and because it's probably our most evolved album, that's why it merits the self-titled, and that was one of the reasons why it felt good to call it that. But we're not really trying to repeat ourselves or summarize what we've done in the past. It should be a new thing. It should be an adventurous experience and stuff.
I'm feeling
it's more masculine in a way to call it just Interpol, and like with the kind of austere facade. And it's sort of, I think that the music, it's not really a lightweight record. There's a lot going on, and so it just seemed like it was appropriate.
I think that you could almost completely phase out guitars in your band now. Some of the movements you're making
on this record. Well, that's because Daniel, has moved towards composing with piano for one, and then Carlos had sort of layered so many levels of orchestration. Like on a song like Summerwell, by the time I heard the music to that song, there was 8 piano parts and Daniel's guitar. And so I hardly touched my guitar on that song because I felt there was no room for a guitar. So that was just sort of, I guess, that's the way this record came to be, But, in my music, I still use plenty of guitars.
Yeah. Actually, I was wondering about that as well, because you had such a... like your debut was straight up and got so much attention straight away. Do you feel like you've had an accelerated sort of creative curve since you were sort of thrown into it very quickly?
Do you mean catching up to notoriety? by accelerated
Well,
creative
yeah, I
growth?
just feel like since you were on the first album, you got so much attention that you could move through things faster because it's almost like, you know, you didn't have those couple of albums beforehand that no one paid attention to.
Well, we did have a couple of years beforehand, before the first record, that no one paid
Oh,
attention to, or that we were just doing a slow build. You know, we were a band for 4 years before the record came out, and we were playing shows and doing a limited touring for like 3 of those years. So we had a lot of time to kind of hone our sound. So I think what it was more that when we
right.
finally made a record, we knew exactly what we were doing as a band. And then I think after that, I don't think we've ever really written relative to. I think we've just written the songs that we've written, and I think that we just had a really firm identity as four individuals working together, and there was enough kind of influence between us, like when we were bouncing off our song structures and our, you know, writing together, that any concept of like what we were expected to do or what we should do was sort of so secondary and so far removed because of the kind of vicious battling and grappling that was going on between the four of us to finish a song. You know, it's like, who cares what anyone, you know, it's done. We actually made that song good. You know, like that's what that song is. And I think it just reflects what we wanted to do as individuals over the years. That's what our music is, and it's pretty independent of the reaction to any of our records. That's what I guess I'm trying to say. Like whatever the reaction was to our music, I think we would have gone on to write the music that we wrote.
In fact, I suppose you got that out of the way early too. When you sort of get that much attention early, you get you know, you can start ignoring it earlier. The reaction from people and critics and
Well,
all
that
that sort of
becomes a
stuff.
necessity because I think many artists are probably more thin-skinned than people think, and maybe more thin-skinned than regular people, you know, than someone not making records. So the press became something just that you had to tune out immediately because the negative stuff was a little harsh, I thought, in the early days. So I've been oblivious basically to press reactions entirely oblivious since Ulta. The first two I kind of dabbled. I put my toe in one too many times and realized, okay, I can't have anything to do with the press reactions anymore.
What about, I mean, you can't help the fan reactions. You're standing right in front of them when you're playing.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, and that's the ultimate barometer for us.
Right.
That is, you know, because I third and fourth record, our fans have seemed to have grown over the course of the last couple of records. So was under the impression that the third one didn't get a lot of love in the press, but that didn't seem to stop our fan base growing. So, and that's where I feel now. That's why I don't feel totally isolated because I haven't read anything about our new record, for instance, because I go to the shows and the fans are singing the songs and the fans are bigger than the last time we came out. The audiences are bigger, so something must be going right, whatever the press is saying about it.
Do you want me to wreck it for you? I can sum it up in a couple of
The
words.
press reaction?
Yeah.
I have no interest at all.
Oh,
Sorry.
return to form. Return to form. Okay, finally, you're in Australia and you've been doing a lot of festivals, which I suppose, is this something you do often? Festivals around the world?
No, I think it just kind of it was presented to us this time. The other times we've been in Australia it was headlining, I believe. I don't think we did festivals.
Yeah,
So it
and
was,
so I just wonder, I mean, are you in a position that you can still turn a festival crowd towards you? Like, you know, that you can actually pick up fans at a festival, or does everyone know what they're getting with Interpol and...
No, I don't think so, because also we've now been doing it long enough where it's really fascinating. I'll meet someone who's 22 and our first record came out when they were like 12 or
Yeah.
13. And so I do think that there's like a whole new crop of kids who are like, we're sort of a veteran band to them. You know, we've been around since they were, you know, before high school.
How does that make you feel,
It's crazy. It's crazy, but then at the same time, once you realize that they're not listening to you and being like, oh, I'm onto the new thing, they're like excited about what you're doing, then it makes it really, really fun, actually. And I do think that that's a great reason to do festivals, is to gain some new, younger fans. And
Cool.
I think there's still fans out there that we're attracting.
Yeah, all right, we'll send them your way. All right, thank you very much for speaking
Thank you.
to us.